Welcome to Self-Exploration, Education, Discovery, and Expression Podcast. We about 26 episodes in. I still ain't got my intro together. It's all good. Ooh, all right. This past week has been super eventful for me. A lot of things have happened just from my personal life, my dating and relationships, my career, side projects, and I want to be able to keep this concise and with some kind of a common theme, but I fear that I won't be able to do that. I just don't think I can. I took some notes, but I generally jump around in the notes. I get it all over the place, but this is just me, how my brain works, and how things tend to come across. So if I had like a few main points that I want to make sure to touch on before this podcast episode ends, one of which is unconditional acceptance over unconditional love. And another thing would be learning that regardless of me being in a nonprofit space of goodwill individuals, business is business. Another thing is when it comes to dating and our deal breakers, things that we have to disclose to a person, I think something that's there is to understand that there may not always be a direct rejection, but perhaps an indirect rejection, if you will. One that looks like acceptance, but over time turns into a rejection, if you will, or just like someone not being okay with that. And then in the last podcast episode, I mentioned forward response. I use fight, flight, freeze, fawn, forward, which to me is just like a conscious use of the energy that arises with us during our triggered response. So when you get triggered in typically what's known as flight or fight response, generally there's an influx of energy. We're not usually exhausted while in that state. We're just hyper alert, hyper vigilant to everything. And there's just that constant state of over awareness of what's happening around you. And to be able to consciously take that energy and apply it towards something, to me, is the forward feeling, if you will. I'm sure something else will end up coming up as I talk, so I'm going to go ahead and just get right into it. The first thing that I want to bring up is the business piece. I won't say names, and for the sake of potentially, like, this is a small community of people who work in sexual health and STD prevention, so I don't want to say names. I don't want to give any hints at all, but I will give an objective view of what happened to me on my side. So I was looking to partner with an organization. I'm familiar with this organization. They're familiar with my work. I frequent them. And when I was last there, closing out my reason for being there, I was asked if I wanted to, or if this organization was able to strengthen their application for a grant with the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and they would strengthen their application by having another nonprofit organization in a similar field added to their grant application, right? So I say yeah because it sounds like, yeah, I get to be a part of something, right? I've been running something positive for positive people for 4.5 years, and I haven't gotten any sort of grants or funding. I've had a few podcast sponsors, and I've gotten donations because it's a nonprofit now. However, this was my first time being approached about something like this, so I'm not familiar with the process at all or anything. And so about a month passes, I check in, and they're waiting on approval. A few more weeks go by. I get sort of an overview snapshot of what was included for me as the organization partnering with them for the portion that the financial agreement was made for something positive for positive people alongside this organization. And so I see what the money is, I see what the worth is, and I'm excited. I'm excited. Yay, I get to part of something. I get to be a part of something, and then I'm told that they'll follow up. They have to make some revisions. Okay, little bit of time goes by, and I follow up again, and this time I follow up to receive the actual grant so that I can review it with my board of directors. I'm excited. I want to let them know about it. Instead, I'm met with the grant was approved to create a few jobs that I might be interested in with this organization. So essentially, what the job was for me to oversee a team of people who would be doing what I've done for something positive for positive people from a digital perspective. Now, I think they've known about 5% of what I do for something positive for positive people, which is that I hosted a podcast interviewing people who are living with STIs about their experience. That's it. The other 95% of the things that go into that, people don't have any idea about. So me being a full-time employee, I would have been able to just exercise that. It would have been an effortless decision for me to go into this role. So I go ahead and apply, and I'm kind of informed what the decisions are, one of which is essentially for somebody to do a lot of the digital stuff, which includes the podcast. And the position that I was encouraged to apply for was like this supervisor position, but it was also a hybrid role, working not just with the digital stuff, but the main focal points of the organization, which are out of my realm of expertise. And then as far as being a supervisor, like, I'm not qualified for that. I can say whatever I need to say in order to be considered for a job, but the reality is I've not supervised people outside of working at an ad agency, which was just like a team of young 20-something-year-olds just telling them, hey, do this. And by this point in time. So I apply and I get the interview. And this is the first time I've spoken to this person or seen this person like video chat since the last time that I was actually physically in the location of the business utilizing their services. And we go through the interview. Interview goes well. It's about an hour and 15 minutes. And the more I'm listening, the more it sounds like the role that I thought that I was being considered for, which would have been the person running the podcast, wasn't the case. It was like they already have someone in mind. And as far as the supervisor position goes, like, I would be in that role, but not a lot of my time would go into the digital stuff. So I speak to all of these things and I ask my questions. I collect the information. And before we get off the call, I inquire on that portion of the grant that my organization, Something Positive for Positive People, was written on or written into the grant for. And he just kind of laughed it off. And it's a white man, older white man. He just kind of laughed. I was like, oh, well, if you get the job, that role will fall under this person's responsibilities. Now, mind you, and to just be, this is something that's important. My role as what Something Positive for Positive People was supposed to be doing was setting up the podcast structure. So laying it out, setting it up, and then creating the framework for whoever it was that was going to come in and host, produce, would have like that formula to follow. So now when he said that, I got off the phone and I felt really just weird, like in my stomach and my nervous system. And I said it out loud to someone, and that person wasn't hearing me. Because they were like, oh, I've written grants before. You don't know what happened. You don't have the whole story. And I'm like, I don't need the whole story to have enough of the facts. I have 4 years of experience with doing this thing that has never been presented to the Centers for Disease Control before. My name is added to strengthen the possibility of this organization receiving the funds to implement this project, right? It's approved, and then it's revised to completely write my organization out of it. And now my organization, isn't working with that organization anymore. So to me, what that looks like is, I have to say this, like, as a black man who has been doing this work for the last 4 years, I was absolutely furious when I processed what had happened, because I also now know that this grant that was awarded is a 5-year grant. I recognize that there's 4 salaried positions, and if I would have been in the supervisor role, I know that probably would have been $50-ish thousand dollars. So let's say you got 4 people making around $50,000 over 5 years. That's $1 million. Like, that's a grant for about $1 million over the course of 5 years. I've been running this podcast alone. I've been hosting this podcast, producing this podcast, recording, finding guests, interviewing guests, vetting guests, creating community, building community, the marketing, the social media management, talking to everyone who reaches out. I've been doing the public relations. I've been interviewed on other people's platforms. I've been in the media. I've been in journalist articles. I've been referenced in other people's stuff. I've done collaborative videos. All of this stuff for free for the last 4.5 years. In fact, I've spent money because I used my own money to fund some of the stuff, because I just generally wanted to help people. And I had it. I want to get away from saying help people. I want to help a person. The framework of the person that I want to help is someone who's struggling with their mental health. If they're struggling with their diagnosis, their identity, really, and needing validation in their identity, that's the person that I want to help and that I believe I've helped. So to sit there after, hearing this and processing this, what I do is so unique and new to the health space, to STD prevention. I wonder if this company were to have simply presented that they wanted to do this without being able to say, oh, we're going to work with this organization that's been doing this work for 4.5 years now and seen success, if there would have been any questioning. Because seeing my name and seeing what it was that I was bringing to the organization might have alleviated any sort of insecurity or questioning about the project, its intentions, what really goes into it, right? And for them to have gotten it and then revised it, I'm sure the person who approved it isn't the person that's approving the revisions. So it was just like an effortless thing to use me, in a sense, to say, hey, we want to partner with you. We're going to give you money and pay you for doing this project as like a consultant or an independent contractor, and then get approved and then roll that into the role that my name was used to acquire, and then to interview me for the job positions. To me, that feels like some sort of guilt, like white guilt or some sort, because I'm not qualified for that position. You have someone in the position, in the role that you initially invited me to. So why waste any of our time? Why waste our time? And again, the interview ended before I was able to begin this processing that I've done. And it's been almost a week now. So I have like my perspective on it in place, and I know how I'm going to deal with it moving forward. I don't think I'm going to bring this up or address it at all, but I will say this: at the end of that call, and once I started processing, I took that feeling, my feeling of being activated, my feeling of being triggered, and I did something with it. Forward is my trigger response. Forward was me going and creating a business plan outline. I have several business plan outlines now. A general overview, one that's in super detail, a SWOT analysis, and I've got like a few different kinds of analyses as well that I'm not letting this organization have. I went as far as trying to patent or copyright my my method of utilizing podcasts in the STD prevention space as an intervention effort. I genuinely did that. I went through the process and nothing fit what I was looking for. So I just said, you know what, forget it. It is what it is. And I don't know how many people have been like, forget it, it is what it is after having had their ideas stolen. I don't care to be someone who's written about in history of Courtney Brain was one of the overlooked black men who changed the public health space, the mental health space. He shifted stigma. I don't know that I'll get that. I mean, which is perfectly fine. But if I were to open up textbooks in 30 years from now and see that this organization was the one that shifted the dynamics and whatnot, then we got a different story. And to have not been compensated for it isn't the issue. The issue is that you got $1 million for using me and then not paying me. And to be honest, I only would have gotten a few $1,000s, but to me, a few $1,000s being given to me for something that I've been doing, that I've been paying to do for the last 4.5 years, for a few hours, not even a week's worth of labor, that meant everything to me. So yeah, I was mad. I went through being mad and frustrated to just disappointed. And then when I started speaking about it and being validated in my feelings from other people, and then hearing it's a business, that told me everything I needed to know. This company was removing a competitor, especially a local competitor. They would have removed me as competition from being able to or willing to apply for any of these grants in the future, by just offering me a salary and benefits and dental and 401k, which all this sounds so good. Oh my God, it sounds so good for where I'm at right now. I did a screenshot of my bank account. I had $343 in there. And I owe $895 on the loan that I took out 5 years ago because I quit my job, moved home to start a business. That business didn't work out, but other things have. And based on that experience that I had, I now know that there was success in this failure. I count this as a failure. The failure to ask for things in writing, to get contracts, to fight for myself. But in the successes, I recognize the CDC is willing to pay $1 million for what I've been doing all this time for free. All I got to do is present it right. With my anger, I used my forward response to create a business plan so that I can go on to apply for grants to do exactly what I've been doing these past 4.5 years and have a proof of concept of, and I can speak to in more detail in order to justify the work continuing. I have a dollar amount to attach my hourly worth to. So I've got stuff to show for from this unfortunate situation. But when my friend said this is a business, that's when it clicked. We ain't like, regardless of the goodwill and the good you do, the positivity and serving of communities, at the end of the day, this is a business, and it's a cutthroat business, and companies are fighting for limited resources and dollars to continue to do what it is that they care about. My inner competitor has been repressed for such a long time, and I recognize that it slips out here and there, and I think that this is a very good place for me to apply that. Bringing this whole thing back full circle, I also said early on when I started my podcast, Something Positive for Positive People, that I wouldn't want to shift into HIV prevention just because that's where the money is. No, there's no money in herpes. There's no money in STI, stigma, or especially that crossed over into mental health, at least not yet. But there is a lot of security, stability in HIV prevention, and I told myself I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't make that shift exclusively, especially just because the money's there. That's not what I want to do. That's not in my integrity. Now, if it's HIV prevention as a result of STD prevention or STI minimization, a phrase that I've not heard anyone else utilize, advocating for the integration of the lived experiences of people who've tested positive for an STI and prevention efforts. That's something I've just not heard of before. So this situation happens, and I remember declaring, I was like, you know what? I can't take this job. Ethics in the office for that interaction, how unethical that seemed, as well as my intention, my integrity. And you know what happened after that? I got an email that I was hoping to get from someone who is in Portland, Oregon, working in STD prevention, who in 2018 wrote about the future of STD prevention. And here we are in 2021. I stumbled across this person's work, and it almost looks like an identical roadmap of how I got to the point I'm at with my nonprofit organization. So we're gonna meet. We're gonna talk on the phone Wednesday this week too. So the day after this podcast is posted, and I felt like that was validation. That was a sign from God, the universe, higher power, self, in the future, whatever, that my decision was the right one to make. There are some pending opportunities that I have out there on the table. None of them are $1 million, but they're definitely more than I've had before, more than I've been able to give before. And so I got a team of people around me that are super supportive and helpful. I've got my business plan is going to be under review. I'm going to be able to go over this and, make this thing happen. And I'm hoping to be able to make that connection while in Portland as well. So, yeah, as soon as I made that decision, man, it's like when you make the big decision, all the little decisions make themselves. They're made for you. And just like I mentioned before, I'm not using my circumstances to dictate my goal. I'm using my goal and then elevating my progression to it by my opportunities that are around me. So utilizing my circumstances to propel me forward toward my goal. And I said for the last few weeks now that getting to Portland's my goal. And along the way, little things have happened. One of my friend who lives there, her roommate is going to be moving out the day before I booked my flight to go out there just to visit. I only booked the one way maybe 2 weeks ago, just so that I could come back and look around at areas that I would want to stay, identifying how much money I'd need to make, where I could work, test out the public transportation system, see the weather, all those kinds of little things that you don't do while you're on vacation. So I was just going to book about a week or 2 weeks out and just have the experience of being there and just being there for more than just a weekend. Because that's where, if I'm looking to plant down roots and plant my baby, which is something positive for positive people to grow, it seems like that's a good environment, considering two of my board members live out there and are in the sexual health field. I've got the guy that I heard from who is in STD prevention, who I'm hoping to be able to connect with, perhaps partner with, or work under even. I've also been presented with opportunities to produce podcasts in the similar way that I've done it for education purposes, as almost like a research type format. So being able to do that is exciting. So all of these opportunities that have come since me making the decision to be true to my intention, I credit that. I credit that remaining in integrity with what it is that I said I wanted to do. Right? That is a hard thing to do. It's not easy, because that salary being dangled over my face, and I don't even know that they would offer me the job. It doesn't make sense too. But if there is guilt there, then yeah, I'll be offered the job. But I already made the decision that I'm gonna turn it down. And yeah, I don't want to burn the bridge of this relationship. But who knows? Who knows what'll happen? So with STD prevention, it's a very small world, so you just never know who you're going to cross paths with or who your name's going to run across. So I just want to not have my name be tarnished in any way, shape, or form. What else? Yeah, I mentioned the big decision being made. I looked at my lease and I can move out whenever I want, as long as I find somebody to fill my occupancy. So the plan is for that flight to Portland to be my trip there. A few ducks need to be aligned, but I don't see why those things won't connect in order order for me to make this move happen. I just gotta sell some of my furniture, pack up 2 to 3 boxes of things that I'll leave over at my mom's. And I got some, yeah, a lot of this stuff like I can sell for sure. But yeah, I plan on just packing up my 3 bags of clothes and shoes, toiletries and towels, and then being a resident of Portland, Oregon, in case anybody was wondering, in case anybody's listening. uh, and you know what? I can't say I'm excited. I also can't say I'm nervous or I'm afraid. It feels right. The most relaxed that I am, the most centered and grounded I am, is probably when I'm doing those things that put me on the trajectory of being where I, with passion, with my soul, say I need to be or feel compelled to be. And the more I sit in my computer and look over those details about my business plan, and I'm typing or I'm sending out emails or I'm inquiring on opportunities, the more like that feels like flow state. I don't know if you've heard of flow state, but it's generally where you're in your purpose. It's like when Tom Brady is in the Super Bowl and he's down 4 touchdowns. Like he steps into who Tom Brady needs to be in order to get that job done, which is to win that game. So flow state essentially is stepping into who you need to be in order to get the job done that you were put here to do. So he was put on that field in that Bucs jersey to win a Super Bowl. At the very least, win a Super Bowl. Courtney was put in his skin suit to continue these efforts to, you know, to advocate for suicide prevention and the integration of the voices that aren't included in STD prevention efforts, which are people who have lived experiences with STIs. This is going to change the game once this gets out there, once this is a real thing for people, once this is something that's recognized in the public health sector, how this can be utilized. So, yeah, and I didn't already forget what I said at the beginning, the other things I wanted to cover. Relationships. I said something about rejection and acceptance. Yeah, so I had I think I talked about the woman who blamed her mental health on not being able to date. So I haven't talked to her anymore. I don't know why I was so nice about getting off the phone. And it took a lot longer than it should have. We should have just been like, oh, okay, all right, well, take care of yourself, bye. And that's how I really need to be moving forward, just direct. This situation, we matched on a dating site on a Saturday. We met up on a Monday. And on this Monday, we go for a walk in the park. We have a nice conversation. We go get Mexican food, share a picture of margarita, go back home, and she gives me a blowjob. She was on her period, so we didn't have sex. This was her decision, not mine. I told her I'll put the towel down, but she didn't. She wasn't comfortable with that. So we hung out a little bit longer, went our separate ways, and then we had made plans to hang out like the next weekend. And she tells me, like, there was a story she told me about messing around with somebody in the work setting, and on Saturday, the day before we were supposed to hang out, she tells me that this thing might have caught up with her and that there's a meeting, and that she wasn't sure about hanging out on Sunday. And that was the last I heard of her. I was just like, yo, if you weren't really okay with me having herpes, like, you could have just told me that. And I know what people are thinking, well, at least you got some head out of it, but that's not what it's about. And I'm not that kind of person. I like to do like one night type things. I don't know what it is, but it just messes with my self-esteem. But while that didn't feel like a rejection, because when I disclosed to her, she was fine about it. I went through the STARS talk with her. And STARS is an acronym for Safer Sex Practices. And yeah, you can Google that. STARS Evelyn Dacker, EVELIN DACKER. And that conversation went really well, but it just seemed like it was really random that, you know, we had these plans and then you cancel these plans. And again, it just seems to be blamed on something or not to be the truth. So a couple of days have gone by. Like, I've texted her back, But like nothing like that. That's it. I just told her, check in with me when you feel like your mental health is better. But now I'm over it. Like, I'm turned off now. Um, so in that sense, like just because someone doesn't reject you right away, or your compatibilities may be initially like there, later on, things don't. It doesn't mean things can't change later on. I said a lot right there. Yes, compatibility. So perhaps we weren't compatible. Perhaps, once when you're attracted to someone and you're horny, hormones are racing, and then you get some sort of a release, reality sets in. So maybe what I'm gonna encourage moving forward is that my dates masturbate before they come see me. I'm gonna do the same, and then we can have level heads. Let me stop. I do think that's an interesting concept, though. Um, I think I touched on my career. I touched on my personal life. Um, the unconditional acceptance. I have no problem with unconditional love. Um, Conditional love is I love you if, I love you when, I only love you when you do blank. Oh, I love it when you blank. I love you when you blank, not I love it when you blank. Those are different things. Unconditional acceptance is not controlling. Unconditional love perhaps can be perceived as, for me, it's fixing. I have a theme where I find people who, quote, need fixing, and I try to fix them. Unconditional love is constantly trying to fix them. Unconditional acceptance is unconditionally loving myself to the point of not trying to expel my energy into fixing people, or in seeing them as broken or damaged, but just radically and unconditionally accepting them exactly for who they are, flaws and all, any disagreements, incompatibilities. This is me accepting you. I'm gonna let you be who you are. I'm gonna support the hell out of you in being who you want to be, and if you decide that you don't want to be that person, then I need to support that as well. Holding someone accountable is different than unconditional acceptance, because typically people don't ask me for uh, being challenged, and I have to accept that. I have to only allow for that to be a thing when it's invited. So if it's not requested, if it's not invited, then I need to be the kind of person who can just unconditionally accept a person exactly as they are. This has come up in dating relationships, really, because I have a partner who I don't agree with her partner selection or the way that she goes about it at times. Oftentimes because there's like something there that's an inconsistency, and when I call it out, it calls for an uncomfortable conversation. But every time I've been right. Like you can't you can't argue with a track record, really, because it seems like the same situation that I'm told that she doesn't want to find herself in. I see the trajectory and I call it, and I'm like, all right, well, here's what's going on. And there's like an inherent need for humans sometimes who are willing to go into the healing process, but there are points where it's hard. It's hard. And the hardest part is being honest with yourself, being honest about the fact that, how you act in a particular moment may conflict with how you want to act, and it may be for a reason that you're not ready to accept. And again, this is radical acceptance or unconditional acceptance on all ends. But for me to be at sort of a bird's eye view of situations, I have to let people unconditionally love themselves. I have to unconditionally accept that maybe not everybody's going to want to do that. Maybe not everyone's going to want to love themselves. And I've run into a situation like this with a potential partner who shot my shit down real quick. She was like, Courtney, I don't like who I am, and I accept that. You are going to be the kind of person who constantly challenges me to be better or be good or accept myself, and I don't want to do that. I accept myself as this sad, miserable person because this is who I am, and I'm going to avoid that by just doing nice things for other people. That's it. Unconditional acceptance It's just you can support a person without trying to fix them, and this is probably my biggest challenge right now to deal with, because I've created an entire business like trying to fix people. You know what? As I said that, that's not what it is. I am making a space for people to be able to seek out the support they need. And I unconditionally accept everyone who comes into this space where they are. And I even invite them to share with me what it is that they feel like they need. And I try to just support them in getting that need met for themselves. So that's what unconditional acceptance looks like. Like, I have no problem with that in my business and my organization. However, in my personal life, like, I need to just stop. I need to turn that thing off. uh, but that's where I'm at now. If you're listening, if you're listening to this point, thank you so much for being here. This accountability means a lot to me, and I am most working on for myself unconditional acceptance. Unconditional love is there. Unconditional acceptance just it it it, it gives me like this sense of peace throughout my body to know that I don't have to invest energy into changing people or changing situations, but just accepting them as they are, and then doing what it is that needs to happen come a time where I find myself in one of those situations. So, Portland, I hope to be out there to you November 4th for good. Like I said, I'm going through the process of getting rid of things and um, packing stuff up, starting to sell stuff, and I'm looking forward to this move. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready. It's been a long time coming. Until next time. I don't know. I don't know what to say. We'll close it out. I need to put more thought into this, especially if this is gonna be my podcast. If you are listening, let me know what you think based on what you heard so far, as far as like an intro or what you think the theme is. Reviews are welcome. But yeah, this has been super therapeutic for me. I feel like I don't over share with people because I have this space to process things. So thank you for allowing this space, for unconditionally accepting this space as it is, for me to just come on here and share my experiences. And hopefully there's something here that you can take away and apply into your own life. Thank you.